Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here with us tonight to talk more about the Fuqua School of Business here at Duke University, and in particular about CASE. My name is Erin Worsham. I'm the Executive Director of CASE, Fuqua's Center for the Advancement of Social Entrepreneurship. And I have with me here tonight Joel and Jamie, who are some of our current students. So the flow for our session tonight is I am going to start with an introduction in just a minute about CASE. I'll share a few slides just to give you the very highest overview of what being a student with CASE looks like here at Fuqua. And then we'll spend the majority of our time answering your questions. So if you have any questions that you'd like to hear us respond to this evening, please put them in the Q&A function on today's webinar, and we'll answer them live with you. So feel free to put those questions in as we go throughout the evening. But again, I'll start with a quick introduction of CASE and then Q&A with Jamie and Joel. All right, let's kick off. Okay, so a few slides first, just to tell you who we are. As I mentioned, the Center for the Advancement of Social Entrepreneurship. Now, that's kind of a mouthful for everyone, so all you have to remember is that CASE is the hub for social impact here at Duke's Fuqua School of Business. CASE was founded over 20 years ago. But I'll say that even today, after more than 20 years of our work, we still feel the need urgently for the work that we do. Because if we look around us, there are urgent social problems everywhere. Just in the last few years, a global health pandemic, racial inequality, rising wealth inequality, political polarization, and so much more. On the other side, there are more and more innovations and solutions for those social impact problems, new approaches to scaling, new impact investment tools and frameworks, the evolution of ESG and impact standards, the rise of stakeholder capitalism. I could go on and on. There are so many innovations, and what we hope is that through our work at CASE, you all will join us here at Fuqua and learn how to leverage those tools and cutting-edge frameworks to help lead towards effective solutions for the world's most pressing challenges. So a little bit about our work at CASE. We are focused on two pillars. The first is that we are educating, inspiring, and empowering the next generation of leaders. That's all of you that are listening tonight and our students that are here with me. On the other hand, we also conduct research, develop tools and trainings, and share resources to help organizations achieve impact faster, more efficiently, and effectively. And so through these two parts of our mission, we're equipped to bring together our students and the impact economy outside of Fuqua, connecting our students to the latest research, top leaders in the field, and connections that will serve you during your time here at Fuqua and in your career well beyond graduation. So what does that mean for all of you that are listening tonight? If you are a prospective student and are interested in building your leadership skills to achieve impact, you've come to the right place. Whether that means you want to work for a nonprofit, launch a social venture, work within a multinational corporation and try to drive social innovation within those walls. As long as you want to be prepared to create sustainable social change, whatever that path looks like for you, we have the programs here at Fuqua to help support you in those goals. So the last slide that I'll show you is a little bit of an eye chart. I'm not going to read through all these words, but feel free to snap a screenshot or a picture or come back to this recording to view some of these programs for social impact here at Fuqua. I just wanted to show you a snapshot of some of what CASE offers to give you a tease of the courses, experiential learning, leadership, and career opportunities that are waiting for you here at Fuqua. We have impact courses that supplement the core business classes taught by the exceptional faculty here at Fuqua. A variety of experiential learning programs that help you apply your skills to real world problems, whether that's through client consulting practica, impact investing, through student funds, mentorship and capital to launch your own social ventures, and so much more. There are leadership opportunities like deep dive fellowships or our award-winning Net Impact Club. And we can talk about all of those things if you have questions tonight. And finally, lots of career support, both advising and financial aid to make your dream job a reality. So again, just a little tease to give us a foundation of what's offered here if you choose to come to Fuqua to gain the business skills and leadership skills to help drive social change. But I know that it's not as helpful hearing me talk through a bunch of slides as it is to actually hear from our students that are experiencing all of these programs as we speak. So let's transition over to talking with Joel and Jamie, our incredible students. And what I'll do is I'll get us kicked off asking a few questions, and then I already see some questions that are coming in now. So I'll make sure to track those and ask those as well. So feel free, audience members, to keep those coming. But let's kick off. Let's just do introductions, right? So Jamie, I'll start with you. Joel, I'll come to you next. But Jamie, start. Tell us your name. But more importantly, tell us about your background before Fuqua and why you decided to come to business school. Not Fuqua, just what made you decide at that point in your career to stop and attend business school?
Absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Henry White. I'm a second year here at Fuqua. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri, so I went to the University of Missouri to study journalism at the beginning of my career, originally a photojournalist, so had a really interesting beginning of my career, started out working for the International Newswire, went back to Missouri to get my master's in journalism and international journalism, and started to focus on international development there. I transitioned from that little exploration of international development. The reason I kind of transitioned away from it is I joined the U.S. Peace Corps. I served in the Dominican Republic, where for 2.5 years I worked in education, community development, and gender empowerment, and just continued to work in Latin America and Central America with small nonprofits and small medium enterprises within this kind of impact space, and especially with rural communities. Within that, I started to realize that I wanted to really scale impact, and I realized I was missing a lot of business skills to become either a nonprofit leader or to make that meaningful impact that I felt was impacting a lot of the communities I was working in. And that's what drove me to look into my MBA and realize that I had a space and a desire to go to an MBA program.
Fantastic. I know your background, but I just love hearing you talk about it and about why you decided to come to business school, because I am so grateful for that decision. Hopefully you are as well.
Definitely
grateful
am.
that you made that decision. Joel, tell us a little bit about you. Give us an introduction as well.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Joel Martinez. I'm also a second year. I went to Middlebury College for my undergraduate, grew up in Massachusetts, and then moved to D.C., where I worked for a nonprofit, an international development organization, where I worked in the justice, the human rights, the access to justice sort of space. Initially, I worked in research for a while, trying to study and understand people's interactions with government institutions, courts, the police, things like that. And then I transitioned actually to managing a network of social enterprises. And we provided, communication support, some financial support to them. But, for me, one of the moments where I felt the need to sort of upskill my abilities and go back to school was in the process of working with these organizations. I was getting a lot of questions about, how they could scale, how they could, measure their impact, how they could, streamline some of their organizational processes, and questions that, as, more of a policy guy, I didn't feel like I had the background to really answer. So, maybe a little bit similar to what you were saying, Jamie, the desire to go back and sort of get those skills to be able to solve some of those most immediate problems that a lot of those organizations seem to be facing, including some of the ones that I was working for. How are we going to grow and sort of sustain our impact long term? And, I found a lot of that and learned a lot of that here while I've been at Duke.
Fantastic. Hopefully that gives all of our audience members a little insight into the diversity of backgrounds that students are bringing. And if we had 5 more students with us today, there would be 5 different stories to tell about how they came to business school and their sort of impact journey along the way. Joel, also, as you were talking, I was having a flashback to when this is COVID times, we're Zooming, when you were a prospective student thinking about coming to Fuqua. I remember talking to you then and was having that flashback of, here he is now. We're so lucky. All right, so before we dig into more specific questions, I just want to continue sort of our introduction and foundation setting. Mm-hmm. So I would love for each of you, Joel, come to you first, to talk a little bit about the impact-related activities that you have participated in here at Fuqua. You don't have to go into too much detail. I'm sure we'll dive in through questions on specific programs, but just sort of list out for us, what are some of the things that you have done in your time here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things that I've just loved about Fuqua is that you can pursue a lot of impact activities sort of from a variety of different approaches. So for classes, I took the social entrepreneurship class that Kathy Clark teaches last year. It's a pretty incredible class. She's a leader in the field, so it's awesome to learn from her. Got to be involved in several of the experiential sort of opportunities. So I was a CASE Impact Investing associate last year, so worked with a second year on a project consulting for an impact organization. Really enjoyed that. I'm actually coming back to lead a project this spring, so that'll be fun. But then also in terms of extracurriculars, I'm a VP in the Net Impact Club, working with membership experience, and also with the CASE Fellows. So a little bit of a community around of impact focused students here at Duke, where we get together and talk about some of the impact challenges and opportunities we see available to us as students and around the world. So a lot of different ways to get involved. It's been
Love
great.
it. It's like you've been here for many years, right? It hasn't just been one. But what I love hearing about the sort of programs and diversity of those programs that you've been involved in is it really shows the range of what's offered here. So you talked about curricular options and impact courses, experiential learning, extracurriculars through the Net Impact Club, and then the CASE Fellowship as more of a leadership kind of community building experience. So we really believe deeply here at CASE that through our programming, we need to have the different types of activities. So some of those are learning frameworks and case studies in a classroom setting. Others are getting your hands dirty through client consulting work or independent or mentored studies. And then also, really importantly, that support network, building that community, not only with staff and faculty within the business school, but with your peers. Because once you graduate, that will be the community that helps continue to support you throughout the journey and wherever it takes you. So great introduction to some of the programs, which I am sure we will dive deeper into. But Jamie, let me ask you the same question. Give us the quick overview of what you've been involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. So some similar coursework alongside Joel. So I was really excited to dig into the social entrepreneurship class with Kathy Clark last spring, but I also was able to take the social venture capital class with John Bewley. And both of those people in the impact investing and ESG space are just really experts and have been leading the charge for a long time. So really enjoyed that introduction into managing capital in a way that has an impact focus. So starting out with that curriculum, I also got involved with KSI3, the Impact Investing Initiative here at Fuqua as an associate. Had a really neat project consulting for a PE firm that's impact focused in South Africa, working with agribusinesses in this middle market that's forgotten. So I had a really wonderful experience with them doing market research. From there, also involved in CASE as a CASE fellow this year. I now lead I'm a co-chair for the KSI3 Impact and Investing Initiative. So happy to organize the whole initiative that we have here for students. Looking to do a mentored study as well through that program. So talking currently with the DFC for the Development Finance Corporation for their social enterprise finance team. So looking to do a mentored study with them in the spring. And I'm trying to think if I'm missing other big things. I was also involved in Net Impact. Last year helped to run the Sustainable Business and Social Impact Conference. And so lots of wonderful opportunities here. Last thing I'll mention is also Fuqua on Board. And Fuqua on Board is an opportunity to serve as a board member with a local nonprofit here in Durham. So got to just wrap that a year of being on a board with a local sustainable focused nonprofit. So lots of wonderful opportunities.
So many opportunities,
Yes.
right? We haven't even covered all of them
No.
through the lists that you both just went through. But appreciate you giving us that overview. I'm sure for our audience members that feels like a lot of like acronyms and names of programs. So let's start to dig into some of them. We're getting some great questions, some following up on a bit of those experiential learning opportunities. So let's start there. Obviously, experiential learning is a big part of the impact programming here at Fuqua, and we believe really deeply in the need to practice what you're learning in the classroom in a setting where it is real world problems, clients, organizations that you're working with. So Joel, I know you mentioned doing the Case I3 consulting practicum last year as an associate, this year as a lead. Help our audience understand a little bit more what that means. What was your project last year, and then tell us about what you're working on this year.
Sure. So Case I3 pairs, impact-focused associates and fellows with real organizations to help them with some of the real problems that they are facing. Right now, you get to work with them for a whole semester, so for 2 terms. And so last year, I was on a team that worked for an organization, a network of high net worth individuals and asset owners who were looking to identify some of the leading ESG standards and sort of measurement frameworks that they could use within their portfolio management system to sort of understand the impact that their various investments were having. And this was specifically in the public equity space. So really trying to drill down and understand, what were the impacts that some of these investments were having, and if we could put some numbers or ratings behind it so that asset owners could really understand what impact their money was having. And several things that I just really like about Case I3 and that experience. So, one is that the problem that I got to work on, and I think the problems that a lot of teams get to work on, are super relevant. So while we were working on trying to identify and recommend sort of the leading disclosure frameworks and standards, this was a topic that was coming up all the time, not just at school, but, even in the news. So there were several frameworks that were actually merging. There was a real need for consolidation in the space. So we're reading about that online, but also, things like the SEC talking about potentially, mandating companies to disclose environmental emissions. And this was something that our client was very interested in as well. So, we're working on something that had a lot of relevance to our classwork, but also, I was reading about in the Wall Street Journal every day, which was really cool. I mean, and then the second part is that, Case I3 gives you the opportunity to really go deep on a particular topic. So, the terms here are typically 6 weeks. They go fast. Mm-hmm. And so to get the opportunity to spend, 12 weeks on one project and really get into the weeds is something that I really appreciated being able to do within Case. And then finally, the connections and the network that you get to leverage in the course of pursuing these projects was incredible. I mean, we had training sessions from folks who, I had been reading their articles prior to business school, and then we would sit in some of the workshops and they would walk us through, how to think about some of the problems we were facing. So, just to be able to get to know those people and make that connection was pretty cool too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And really important to have that real world experience. And I think especially in the impact space where things are evolving so quickly. Mm. And so, what we do with our curricular offerings is making sure that we're sort of bringing in those kind of cutting edge frameworks and evolution of ideas into the curriculum. But through those experiential learning opportunities, you said, we're at the cutting edge thinking about the consolidation of frameworks for ESG and impact. Your client it wasn't a research project. It wasn't like a fake project for them. They needed to have you help them through that because they were also learning alongside you. It was real time figuring that out. And that's so important in a space like impact that is evolving so quickly. All right. Thank you, Joel, for talking us through. I'll just say one more note on the Case I3 consulting practicum. So Case Initiative on Impact Investing consulting practicum. We'll have lots of acronyms. That is one way for students to get to work with impact-related clients, obviously specifically on impact investing-related clients and projects. There is also a program here called the Fuqua Client Consulting Practicum, where we also source impact projects. Those are not impact investing related. So as examples, we're just matching our teams with our clients for this year's program right now. But we have a team that'll be working with a global nonprofit organization. That nonprofit is working in over 30 countries around the world on a global health initiative, and they, as a nonprofit, are looking to commercialize one of the products that they've created. How do they create an earned income stream, develop the marketing, business development strategy around commercializing this product? And so we'll have a team working on that. We had a team last year working with a large multinational corporation, their impact innovation department, helping them think about some of the work that they're doing. So there's a real diversity and variety of types of clients to engage with on the experiential learning side. Keeping on the experiential learning sort of opportunities, we have actually a couple of questions on Fuqua on Board.
Sure.
So folks are interested to learn more about how students work with Fuqua on Board, and how did Fuqua prep you when it comes to contributing to the board of a local nonprofit. So can you talk a little bit about the Fuqua on Board program?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the main reasons it's a great opportunity is, especially if there's many students that are just interested in being involved in the nonprofit space, but are looking to be in the for-profit space post-school. So it's a great opportunity for them just to get a good preview. Some people come from a nonprofit background, but have never really interacted with the board. So Fuqua on Board is really this wonderful one-year program that you start out doing your first year, and you are prepped. The way that you're prepped through Fuqua is through workshops. So you're coming in. There's multiple workshops throughout the year that really talk about board structures, governance, what it might, issues that might arise, things that happen within a board to prep you to be a part of that board. Students have a variety of opportunities that they're interviewing for. So depends on their interests. You could be doing anything from working with anti-racism, with homelessness, food insecurity. I worked within kind of sustainability and circularity with my nonprofit. So people are interviewing for specific nonprofits in their interest area, and then you're just going to usually monthly meetings and just being involved in particular projects according to your board. So some of that might be looking at their financials and looking at their fundraising. Others might be looking at their marketing or internal structures. So you have a pretty wide variety, but very well prepared in terms of having a cohort alongside you, and also programming and workshops provided by Student Life to make sure that you have the proper toolkit as well. And a lot of insert, they'll bring in outside experts to make sure that people have a good preview outside of Fuqua what this life is like.
I love the Fuqua on Board program because it is such an effective way to get engaged in our local community.
Yes.
So talking about some of these consulting projects, international in scope, or companies that are headquartered somewhere far away, but Fuqua on Board is right here in Durham. So an opportunity for students to engage with the local nonprofit community, really give back to what you're calling home for the next few years of your MBA career. But then alongside it, as Jamie was saying, learn the skills of nonprofit board leadership through the workshops that are offered here at Fuqua. And we see a lot of students really interested in that. It's in that program because it's a great way to get engaged in the community, in impact, and regardless of where your career path will take you, I can pretty much promise that if you're graduating with an MBA from a top business school, that wherever you end up, there will be boards that would like you to be of service to them and serve on their boards. And so why not prepare for that while you're here in business school? All right, so that was a great one. We have a follow-up question. I'll take this one quickly. So how does the FCCP help us understand how to drive social change in a consulting career post-MBA? So we have a lot of students that are coming with hopes of going into consulting and impact consulting. So there's a really strong network of students and career support for that path. But certainly the FCCP and the Case I3 Consulting Practicum as well help learn all the skills for those career paths. So everything from how to manage scoping a project, how to manage the relationship and the reporting and communications with the client, some of those softer skills of consulting, and then obviously the technical skills related to each of the projects. Joel, as you were talking about your project from last year, I wondered if a year before that you could have imagined saying all the words you said and understanding the frameworks, right? It is such an effective way to really dive deeply. And as a former impact consultant myself, that's one of the most important parts, I think, of consulting is how do you quickly get up to speed on an area or an industry that maybe you don't have a lot of experience on so that you can have that credibility with your client. How do you work effectively in a team? How do you communicate and build relationships with those clients? Those are all the fundamental consulting skills, and we're giving you the opportunities to practice those here in a sort of safer environment before you go off and do that as your career, if that's your path. And so we make sure that we have a variety of impact-related clients to have something for every student and their interests. Okay. All right. So many great questions coming in. I'm loving this. We've got a question about the CASE Fellowship. So we talk a little bit more about the CASE Fellowship and what kind of students are fits for those. So this person is particularly interested in sustainability in corporate finance, but I would say generally, can one of you talk a little bit about what the CASE Fellowship is and is there a requirement for the types of things that you do or are before you join that program?
You want me to take that over?
Go for it. Yeah.
So yeah, we have a lot of acronyms, so it can feel a bit confusing, but obviously we have CASE, which is our Center for Advancement of Social Entrepreneurship. CASE I3 is the Impact Investing arm, and then CASE Fellows, I would say, is really focusing on that social entrepreneurship piece, that social enterprises piece. So it's in your second year that you would do this fellowship. You apply as a first year, moving into your second year, and it's this amazing cohort. I'm lucky to have Joel in this cohort with me, of people that are really impact focused in their careers, and this really goes across the spectrum. We have people just interested in healthcare, in sustainability, in finance, a wide variety, but it's a wonderful space where we're all making sure that we're connecting on this vulnerable space where we can share our like inner inspirations and motivations, but also gain technical skills and peer learning from each other. So whether that's impact measurement, looking to understand venture capital at large, there's all sorts of different things that we can do together. The fellowship right now, we actually have been working alongside the Kirby Impact Prize team here, which is basically this wonderful impact prize where $100,000 is given to a social enterprise, and we're able to be behind the scenes and see all these incredible social enterprises, whether for-profit or nonprofit, that are applying for this honor and this award as well. And we get to see really a close-up look of what makes a social enterprise successful and where maybe their gaps might be, and measuring their impact or growing or scaling or doing a transformational change in their area or their community. So really peer learning, community, and then just getting these more technical skills within the CASE network. So it's a really wonderful, intimate experience.
Mm-hmm. And then, as you said, people coming from all different backgrounds,
all sorts of backgrounds,
and going onto all different paths, but
yes,
with that commonality of really caring about how you're going to apply the skills that you're learning here in business school to impact in some way, and wanting to develop that community to support you through that journey. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about community a little bit more, okay? So we've got a question about the importance of an impact community. I believe so strongly in this, of how important it is for you to build that support network to support you through your time at Fuqua and beyond in your impact journey. And so the question is around what has that impact community looked like for each of you during your time at Fuqua, and I'll add on any surprises or lessons learned about the impact community.
Do you want to kick it
Sure.
off this time?
Yeah, sure. Starting with the surprise, I will say that, as someone who came to business school from a nonprofit background, one of my anxieties was whether or not I was going to fit in, if I was going to sort of be this outlier who didn't have all this business experience and sort of saw the purpose or the function of business in a really different way from the rest of my classmates. Mm-hmm. And it's been a very pleasant surprise that I have found that has not been the case at Duke, that there is a very tight-knit impact community here, but I would just say even broadly across the student body, there is a real sort of understanding of the importance of impact, and whether or not people want to pursue nonprofit or impact-specific careers, people here are still pretty fluent in being able to talk about its importance, talk about how that can be approached from a variety of different career paths. So that, coming in, I didn't necessarily think that was going to be the case, so that's been a pleasant surprise for me.
I feel like I talked about that when we chatted, but you didn't trust me.
Well, you never know, right? And I don't know if that's the case at every business school. I'm just going to say.
So, yeah.
So that's great. One other thing, maybe just on community, and we've talked a lot about the CASE side of things, and this is the CASE webinar, so that makes sense. But I think it's sort of nice to point out that a lot of these communities come together and work on these issues from a variety of perspectives. So, there's a very big energy community. It was Energy Week this week here at Duke, and so getting the opportunity to work with those folks who are really focused on sort of the energy side of things and the overlap with impact and sustainability, and then even with some of the other schools that are here. So the Nicholas School, which brings in dual degrees who come with maybe more of an environmental view, or the Public Policy School. We're doing a mixer with them in a couple of weeks from a net impact perspective, and it's just great that you not only have the community here at Fuqua, here with CASE, but also sort of more broadly, across the Duke ecosystem. I've really appreciated that.
I always say there's no lack of programs or resources or communities. The problem is, how do I find the time to take advantage of all of it, and how do I prioritize, right? You're laughing with me of like, oh boy, yes, that's true. Jamie, anything you want to add on the impact community side?
I think,
cover it.
Yeah, I mean, Joel really covered it. I think it's true. I think there's a lot of mental barriers looking at business school, especially if you come from this non-traditional background, and then you get here and realize there are plenty of people that fit in that non-traditional background. Yeah. And something that's, I think, is very special about Duke and Fuqua is that through my application process to getting here until this day, I have always felt welcome and honored and valued for that skill set I was bringing in. And even in my recruitment process for corporate jobs or for consulting, having this really diverse background where I can talk about, I lived abroad for all these many years and working with nonprofits and have this resiliency and all this skill set. I feel like I found people that really could respect that were either in that background in nonprofit space here at Fuqua, but also my classmates. There's just so much. It is a really tight-knit community. There's so many people that are involved in impact, but it really is across the ecosystem where we were talking about it in classes that you wouldn't expect to be talking about impact, or you wouldn't think that a business school would be bringing it up. And I feel like it's very much part of the fibers of Duke and Fuqua. And I think that's contributed to the faculty, but this passion from students. And like you said, there's a really wonderful blending of the climate-interested students, the sustainability-interested students that overlap with the social impact students. So there's a lot of networking and just overall support across the board, which I think has just been an incredible community experience.
Okay, great. And that conversation flows excellently into one of the questions that just popped up here, asking about CASE and EDGE.
Yes.
So another acronym, the Center for Energy Development and the Global Environment. So asking about CASE and EDGE and whether we collaborate, and to give examples of that. So I'll kick off with an example, but then if you guys have anything to add, would love to hear it. So for those of you that are not as familiar with the sort of ecosystem here at Fuqua, there are a number of centers that are focused on specific issue areas. And so within the business school, obviously we have our, faculty departments that are focused on strategy and marketing and finance, the fundamental kind of skills of a business school environment. And then the centers were developed to have cross-cutting themes that would work across all of those. And so CASE focused on social impact, EDGE on energy and the environment, the Health Sector Management Center focused on the health sector, the Center on Leadership and Ethics, and Innovation and Entrepreneurship, right? So 5 different programs and centers here focused on these cross-cutting issues. Obviously, with CASE and EDGE, there is a lot of overlap between energy and social, or environment and social issues, and so we absolutely collaborate a lot. One specific example I'll give is that this year we, CASE and EDGE, collaborated to pilot a new sort of revised program called the SBSI Bootcamp, so Sustainable Business and Social Impact Bootcamp. And that was a full day bootcamp, intensive for incoming first-year students at the beginning of their journey here at Fuqua to really dive into what does it mean to think about being a business leader that cares about social and environmental impact. How do we think about business for good? What are all these acronyms I'm hearing about ESG and SASB and ISSB and all of the acronyms that swirl around in our conversations? And so we were able to collaborate to bring that program together, ensuring that we were telling both sides of the social and environmental story, bringing all of the expertise from the 2 centers together at the very beginning of first year's experience to kind of lay the groundwork for what are some of the fundamental topics and issues that you need to be aware of around stakeholder capitalism or business for good, and really early on developing that community of students that care about impact, whether they care about energy and climate or sustainable ag or education, whatever, everything in between. But having those opportunities to bring CASE and EDGE together and our networks to provide programming together for the students. There any other thing you'd like to say about EDGE? Or, I mean, they're amazing.
They are.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, both of them have been a huge part of my journey to Fuqua and my journey at Fuqua. I really was looking for a business school that had both of those things, that were really walking the walk in both social impact and social entrepreneurship, but as well as energy and the environment. And I just think you have so much mentorship when it comes to the faculty and professors, and just so much crossover between these two groups, because of course people's interest areas will intersect. If you care about food and ag, you're going to care about the people in those communities as well. So I just think there's a lot of wonderful crossover, and there's such a wealth of resources between the two.
Mm-hmm. I had a first year at the beginning of the year ask me, coming in and meeting with me for office hours and saying, like, I think I'd also like to meet with somebody at EDGE. And I was like, you're allowed to do that.
Please do.
That's amazing, right? Like, you don't need permission. We all work together. So such a collaborative environment in that way. And we, from the staff and faculty side, learn so much from each other. And so it's a really wonderful place for us to work as well. There's a question here saying to further build off the community aspect, can you elaborate on what mentorship looks like at CASE? I can answer that, but let me have you guys. What does it look like to engage with CASE? And
I mean, maybe just to kick us off, it happens in a lot of different ways. And for me, some of you have faculty mentors, but some of the ones who have helped me the most have been sort of, when I was a first year, the second year mentors who I came in, wasn't totally sure, what impact career paths really looked like, how to navigate Fuqua classes, which electives to take, and all of that. And there's a real commitment, I think, from second years to really help first years come in, hit the ground running, answer their questions. And so it's maybe a little bit of a softer side of mentorship, but in terms of like mentoring someone on like how to be a business student, right, and how to succeed at an MBA, it was something that I really appreciated. And I think particularly amongst impact-focused students, there's a lot of help there that you can lean on.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would echo that. I think just a lot of people are very aware of everyone's interest areas, and they're always rooting for each other. So they'll see an internship or see an opportunity and pass it along and be like, oh, Jules, this is perfect for you for XYZ reason. And I think that first year intertwined relationships are just really, really crucial to the experience. And then just knowing that I can come to CASE at any time. I remember like coming to your office last year, trying to figure out what I was going to do, if I was going to do consulting or not, and really just feeling like I had a place where I was felt seen and heard, and being able to ask these gray area questions when you're still navigating a very new world, especially for impact students.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, I often reflect on my own business school experience and how much, what I remember really resonated and stayed with me were the relationships that I was able to build, of course, with my fellow students, but also with the staff and faculty that made the time to want to learn about me, my interest, help me succeed, and cheerlead me on as I was going through what's a pretty intense 2-year program. And I think that's the way we try to approach our work at CASE as well. I will often talk about the CASE family, and I really believe in that we want to make sure that we are, open doors, comfortable place for students to come to get advice about careers, about classes, about projects that they're working on, but to really have that support network that is there to cheerlead you if you need a boost during recruiting season or to help navigate courses or things like that. And so I would hope that the environment here is a really supportive, nurturing, mentoring environment amongst students from first years to second years, with staff, with faculty, and really tactically to the person that asked that question, office hours every week. I have them. Our faculty director has office hours. Our Erin Morant, who's our guru of all things student programs, has office hours every week. So it's just sign up, find a time, come in and meet with us, or just come into our offices and say hi. And if we're there, we're happy to talk. It really brings us a lot of joy to get to know our students and help mentor you through this experience. Okay. Lots of things coming in. I see one about career support. Okay, so let's talk impact careers. I know social impact isn't a popular pathway, so I'm wondering how the CMC assists in helping social impact MBAs secure internships and full-time employment. Interesting. I'm like, do I agree with the premise of social impact isn't a popular pathway? I would say we have many students that are coming here and interested in careers with social impact. Depending on how you define that determines the pathway. So I had office hours today, actually, and had conversations with a variety of students that were talking about career paths. And it was everything from wanting to find like an incubator or an accelerator to advise and support social ventures as they are starting their missions, nonprofit education space / ed tech, not sure which direction yet, and then consulting and corporate impact, right? So social impact careers are so many different pathways. One of the first slides I showed in the intro talked about, do you want to work in a B Corp, at a nonprofit, in corporate social innovation, in impact investing? All of those are social impact career paths that we support through CASE and through the CMC. At the Career Management Center here at Fuqua, there's a dedicated staff person, the sector director for social impact and sustainability. So really a acknowledgement from Fuqua that we care deeply about impact career pathways, whether that's social or environmental, and have a person and a team supporting that are focused exclusively on that, making those connections, helping do the advising of those impact careers. What is different about it, though, is that it's not, as structured of a recruiting process as consulting or, banking, things like that are. So it does require a lot of, I would say, hand-holding and advising for students that are going down that, what we call the custom search, the more individualized social impact search. And that's what we're here for, is to help along the way. But why don't I ask you all to tell a little bit more about your career journeys? So Jamie, I know you talked about your experience pre-Fuqua. Mm-hmm. You interned with Accenture this summer and are planning on going back after graduation. Excited about. So tell us a little bit more about why did you make the decision to go after consulting and decide to return, and then what's your sort of longer term vision for your career?
Absolutely. So I definitely came into Fuqua not realizing consulting would have been an opportunity for me. I knew that I wanted to come to business school to explore this gray space. It's not really gray space now that I realize, but this hybrid space between for-profit, nonprofit world and impact within that. And so I knew I wanted to explore social enterprises and impact investing, and that was a big draw to Fuqua. In the process, had some wonderful people that were both Fuqua alums and current Fuqua students to show me that there is an opportunity to really work at scale impact within the consulting world. And so started to explore, okay, can consulting be something for me, whether if I want to work within social impact or if I want to work within sustainability or climate. And so the more I started narrowing the search of understanding, okay, what firms are doing this and where can I participate, Accenture was a wonderful fit for me, Accenture Strategy. This past summer, my project was actually climate focused and also impact focused. So I was working with a large international nonprofit that it was looking to revamp their whole entire enterprise strategy. And alongside that was thinking about their impact measurement, right? And how they were going to narrow down their scope and really hone in on it for the 2030 goals that they had. So I had this incredible experience working with the ADP team of Accenture, which is their Accenture Development Partnerships, which is kind of like their nonprofit international development branch, but they also work with for-profit corporations and foundations. So got to see a preview of that and realized that for me, consulting was a wonderful way to really start to really flex and practice that business muscle and see across industries, okay, how can I achieve climate goals or impact goals, whether it's in food and ag or retail or transportation, et cetera, energy, utilities. So for me, I'm looking to consulting to really dive in deeply into sustainability in the for-profit space and knowing that ultimately it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for me to expand back into social enterprises, into social VC, but having a much stronger skill set. I also have the opportunity to explore impact investing within Accenture. So it really just ticked all those boxes and made me feel good about this next step of being able to expand my MBA, honestly, to continue to be more of like experiential learning in a job form and really get those skill sets that I feel like I want to hone in on so that I can become a better nonprofit or social enterprise leader in the future.
Mm-hmm. And what a great example of, so the last question where I was like, do I agree that social impact careers are a narrow path? if we look at the job list
wide.
and it says Jamie Accenture, we
Yes.
don't assume that that is an impact career path, but you've been able to create the path within Accenture
Yes.
through your internship and through what you do afterwards that is making it an impact career.
Absolutely.
And is going to set you up for what comes next in your impact career. So thank you for sharing that. Joel, what about you? Do you want to tell us a little bit about your career journey here at Fuqua?
I mean, sure. I mean, sort of to echo a little bit what Jamie was saying earlier, just about, continuing developing those skill sets that I came to get at business school. And so for me, over the summer, I did a brand management internship. That was a path that I saw to, really get exposed to a whole variety of business problems, of the sides of the business. I found throughout my recruiting process that, brand managers, they're sort of referred to as these like mini CEOs, right? Where you come in, you own a brand, you own the P&L. And so for me, the opportunity to do that over the summer, something I really enjoyed. Two things that I learned, I guess. One, that, the work was really fascinating and you learn a lot, right? So for me, I'm a hands-on learner. And so coming in out of the classroom and just putting all of that stuff that you learned there into practice was a way for me to really, make it real, right? And for it to actually start to solidify in my mind, and I could see myself doing that, continuing to use those tools in the future. I would say the second thing is more towards the CSR side of things, something that, it's a hypothesis, right? That we think this is growing, right, in corporations. My experience over the summer was that it is, and that there is a lot of talk about, even at a CPG, about sustainability and how do we improve our packaging, and what are we doing about the 2030 agenda and all those sorts of things. And so it was very encouraging to me to see that you can take on these more corporate roles, but then find spaces within those companies to continue to apply an impact lens. And so, sort of to what we were talking about before, it can be a narrow path, but it can also sort of be as wide as you want to make it, which is what I found this summer.
I think more and more impact is everywhere.
Yes.
Right? So, using the business skills that you're learning here at Fuqua or in business school and applying them pretty much in any sector, but knowing that impact is going to be a part of that conversation. So whether it is a nonprofit where it is mission focused, and obviously you need to bring your leadership skills to efficiently run that organization and scale it, or whether we're talking about the largest corporations that are having to think about reporting on ESG standards and measuring and managing their impact for a different group of stakeholders beyond just their shareholders. Impact is going to be in any job path that we have in the future. And so that's part of our role here at Fuqua, is to make sure that we're providing the opportunities for students to be able to build the skills they need to navigate that future. Okay, we've got a question from Sunny. First of all, Sunny, thank you. Sunny says she's impressed by the reach and warmth of the social impact space here. So thank you to you both for showing that to our audience. Now that you're in CASE leadership roles, I think that's directed at all of us, where do you hope CASE and the social impact space at Fuqua will grow? I'll answer first while you guys think of that, okay? Because I love this question. I'll say, Sunny, to begin to answer that question, just a little bit of historical context about CASE. I mentioned at the very beginning that we've been here at Fuqua for over 20 years. And when we started, I wasn't here at the time, but when CASE was started by Greg Dees, one of the leaders in the field, and Beth Anderson, the focus in the early days was really pretty narrowly on social entrepreneurship. And at that time, that really meant a lot of nonprofit organizations, mostly. And as the world of social impact has evolved, so has CASE and the programming here at Fuqua. So going from a more narrow lens of social entrepreneurship and nonprofits, expanding as social entrepreneurship began to include more for-profit and hybrid organizations. 10 years ago, when impact investing really started to take off, starting to have our impact investing initiative and work in that space as well. So kind of, layering on these new evolutions of impact as they become reality and trying to push the field forward towards more and better impact. And so then most recently in the last few years, it has been adding on to social entrepreneurship and nonprofit management into for-profits and hybrids, impact investing. And now, as you've heard us talk talk about more of the sort of business for good, stakeholder capitalism lens, and how do we help corporations think about their impact and effectively manage and measure. So across all of those audiences, the fundamentals are still the same. We care about solving social and environmental problems. What are the skills, the competencies, the networks that we need to do that? How can we research that outside with our external audiences, and how do we bring those learnings and skills to our students to empower you all to be the next generation? So for me, what I hope to see is just that continuing evolution of the impact field. And alongside that, that has meant a continuing expansion of interest from students, which sometimes makes my head spin as the leader of CASE, because, as I said, each person that comes in my office to ask for advice is talking about a different career path, a different topic. But that makes it really fun, and I love seeing the increasing interest from across the student body for so many people that might not have thought of themselves as an impact person, but are recognizing how important that is in their management and leadership future. But what about you all? What do you think? Where do you want to see CASE and more generally the social impact space at Fuqua go?
This is such a wonderful question. It's a large question.
It's a deep one.
Yeah, it's a very deep one. I was thinking about this. I feel like just lots of little memories that are connected to this question or this idea. But I think ultimately the hope by a lot of the people in the student body and professors is that it won't just be sustainable business. It will just become business. Like eventually businesses will just be sustainable in theory. It won't just be impact investing. It will be actually just be investing, that these pieces will all become intertwined and ingrained. And so I think a lot of that discussion is happening in the classroom across the board. People who don't think that impact's going to impact them are realizing as future business leaders, like they cannot avoid this. This is a huge part of the conversation. It comes up in classes from project finance to anything really across the board. So I think ultimately it's seeing that impact and business are not separate. They are deeply intertwined, and I think that's a lot of the hope that I see in the body here, the student body here, as well as I can highlight like Case I3 this year. We had probably the largest amount of applicants we've ever had to be a part of this investing initiative. And one neat piece of Case I3 I didn't get to mention earlier is that there is a student-run fund here. So it's a sustainable impact fund that is looking to do real investments through public equities through Duke's endowment. And so there were people that are investing in iBankers or looking into going to finance and realizing, I can get investing experience. And through this investing experience, you're also recognizing that you do not have to sacrifice financial returns to make meaningful social returns and environmental returns. So I think there's a lot of more draw towards understanding I can get practical experience, and they realize that that they really aren't truly separate and they are beneficial to business overall. Hopefully that makes sense. That was pretty roundabout, but there's just so much to it.
Yeah. I love the question, Joel. I'll let you answer, but just one comment. I love this idea of it won't be impact investing, it will just be investing. And I think our challenge as a school, as an institution, as a field, is to make sure that as we go to that more sort of mainstreaming of impact, we're ensuring that we're keeping the rigor.
Yes.
At its core, that we're not diluting it as we go. And so that's the challenge that we're all trying to navigate in our work here at CASE and at Fuqua. But as you are the future leaders leading those organizations, integrating impact into the operations, whether it's nonprofit, for-profit, large corporation, small organization, integrating impact into the strategy and growth of those organizations, but in a way that is truly achieving social and environmental change and driving to solve the social problems and environmental problems that we're facing. And so that's what the challenge is and what we're trying to help propel our students and alumni to go do. Not just impact in name only, but knowing how to really do it well and effectively and lead others alongside you. Joel, what about you?
I mean, I think you guys covered it. But just to echo a couple of the points. I mean, one, Jamie, you were talking about how for Case I3 this year, probably the largest applicant group. I just hope that the resources continue to grow, right? So that we're able to find places for the huge amount of students who are interested in this work and want to do it, and that we can continue to support all the folks who are interested and have to maybe make it slightly less competitive, right? So that we can have more folks participate and continue to sort of update the curriculum, right? To make sure that it's such a fast growing and changing field, to make sure that we're still and always sort of learning right at the cutting edge. And this can happen in the academic classes with the clubs, and we have we have business for common purpose, right? We have all these opportunities to sort of stay at the forefront of impact. And so it's sort of my hope that Duke and CASE in general, continues to commit to that.
Which is a big challenge as things are moving so quickly, right? That not only to stay on the cutting edge, but also ensure that what we are teaching and training are tested, right? Are rigorous, research-based, evidence-based frameworks and tools that we know work in practice. And the combination of that gets really tricky, but really fun to try to figure out how to navigate that. You mentioned business for common purpose for students out there. That is not a CASE course. That is a Fuqua required course for all first years. It's considered a capstone to your first year experience to take a course on business for common purpose. And so again, we're talking about CASE tonight, but that doesn't mean that CASE is the nexus of all the impact opportunities. We're just one piece of the puzzle. I'm recognizing we are almost out of time. I don't know how that happened. This has gone so quickly. So there are a million questions that we have tried to get to as many as we can. But I want to, in recognition of the time, I want to ask just a couple of closeout questions to sort of wrap up our conversation today. So let me ask each of you, I asked you at the very beginning to reflect on why you wanted to go to business school. What was the driver for you? And so now I want to focus more specifically on Fuqua. What is, say, one or two things that make you think Fuqua was the right place for you, but more generally the right place for impact-oriented students? So why Fuqua?
You want me to start?
You do.
I mean, the short answer, right, is it's everything we've been talking about for this last hour, right? It's the fact that all of these amazing opportunities and people and classes are here at Fuqua. But I will say maybe the one thing that has stood out maybe above all has been, the faculty and sort of the access that you have to sort of thought leaders within the field. I don't think you can get that anywhere else. I think that's here at Duke, and I think that's a real difference maker. And for me, it's been real. I mean, everyone is so open and accessible. It's I don't know. It's pretty incredible to be able to have that sort of access to the impact leaders around the world.
Team Fuqua, CASE family, right? It's a real thing. And I'll just say, Joel mentioned the faculty members. And there was a question earlier on about engagement with faculty, and there are incredible faculty doing research here on impact. We mentioned Kathy Clark, the faculty director of CASE, who is one of the leading researchers and thought leaders in the impact investing and social entrepreneurship space. You think about Ronnie Chatterjee, who has been working in the administration right now, but sits at the nexus of business and policy and thinking about how we need to drive change through both of those venues. Or Christine Moorman, who is one of the marketing professors, but is really interested in innovation and has been doing some writing on and research on ESG within the marketing sphere. How do marketers need to think about ESG and impact within their purviews, right? The list can go on, but some really incredible faculty that are here excited to meet with students and engage with you. So thank you for that, Joel.
Yeah,
Jamie,
I think you reminded me of I think all of the discussion we've been having really highlights why Fuqua. I mentioned the climate-related centers here, like EDGE and CASE, obviously were a big draw, but Team Fuqua is very much a real thing. And I think seeing that with the community that is here, that is we have one of our pillars is supportive ambition. I feel that every single day. We are truly looking out for each other and want each other to succeed. And I also see that with the alumni. So being able to access people that are 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, they're just as excited to talk to Fuqua students now that will make that time for you to talk about how they got there and whether it's in their impact career or not. Mostly a lot of the ones I've talked to are in their impact career doing incredible things. I think Team Fuqua is it's a very, very real thing, and it sounds like just a marketing campaign, but it is truly embedded in this culture, and it feels like it's for a lifetime. So I think that is another thing of why Fuqua, Team Fuqua plus the CASE family, the impact space, it just really ticks all those boxes.
Okay, final question for you both. Final words of wisdom, advice that you would give. You were just in these seats a couple of years ago thinking about business school and trying to understand all the acronyms and the application processes. What would be your sort of parting words of advice that you would want to share with the prospective students out there?
I think just some of the best advice that I got in I found it to be completely true, is reach out, right, to students that you may be interested in talking to and learning more. We've sort of done a whirlwind tonight of all the opportunities and activities that you can get involved with. There may be a few that you're really interested in learning more. There's a whole admissions team and student body that's sort of behind everything we've talked about, who is very much eager to talk to potential students. And so I would just say, reach out and you can get connected to someone and learn a lot more. And that's a great way to really connect with Fuqua.
Fantastic. What about you, Jamie?
Yeah, I would say the other thing is really, this is going to sound quite cheesy, but really believe in yourself and believe in the values and the skill sets that you bring, even if they feel like to you they are non-traditional. Or, for example, there's plenty of people that are coming from a more traditional path that want to transition into environment or energy and think that they cannot be a part of those careers, and you very much can. So I think really understanding that there's a space for everyone at business school, and we want that diversity here at Fuqua, and diversity of backgrounds. Everything here at Fuqua is very, very valued. So I think really know your why for coming to business school, but really believe in yourself, because I think we value that genuine, authentic passion that every person brings, and that all looks very different from person to person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Fantastic answers to all the questions. Really appreciate you both sharing your experiences, your time, and your insights with me and with everybody who's watching tonight or watching the recording once it goes up online. And just, gratitude to everyone that is in the audience tonight, sharing your time with us. It is my honor to get to work here at CASE at Fuqua and with incredible students like Jamie and Joel and all of your classmates and those that have come before and are now in our alumni network. Every day I sort of pinch myself that this is the job I get to do of working with incredible leaders and next generation leaders on trying to solve some of the world's most pressing challenges. And so I hope that we answered at least some of your questions today. Feel free to go to our website at www.caseatduke, caseatduke.org and learn more about our programs and how to get in touch. We'll look forward to engaging with you more and hopefully seeing you here in the halls of Fuqua when you matriculate as a student with us. And I'll be thrilled to get to know each of you and be a part of your impact journey as well. So thank you, everyone, and look forward to more conversations to come. Good night.